Hello and welcome to the Unnamed Sports Show here on the Sports Talk Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. I am your host, Joshua Griffith, and this is the Best of 2020 show. Might not have been the best year all around, but I had an extremely exciting start to my media career. Was able to cover the Vancouver Whitecaps down at their training camp in San Diego. I was able to go to their preseason in Portland, their home opener on the February 29th at BC Place, and I was able to start my own show and have had a great lineup of guests. So that's why we're here today. We're going to be looking at the best of 2020 through all the shows. Going to be in a couple different parts, as I guess I just liked way too much of my own show. So we had 39 shows, over 48 guests, and we're going to start right off at the beginning on May 7th, 2020, as my very first show interviewing Canadian sprinter Jerome Blake. So while it was a 1 hour show back when we started, it's not anymore. It gave us a lot of great interviews, and it also gave me a lot of terrible outtakes and a lot of fun clips. So I hope you guys can enjoy those. We're going to be putting out the shows in a sequence of 1, 2, or 3 shows, and then getting the outtakes and the fun stuff for you to enjoy. So we're going to run this first part all the way from May 7th until July 11th, just before all of the real sports got back going. So I hope that you will enjoy that. There's a lot of fun clips and outtakes and stuff like that, like I said. And I want to thank the matinee very much for letting me use some of their music for my outtake, or for my show, for my Best of 2020 show, and my producer Lucas, who has spent hours working on this with me. So really hope that everyone enjoys and has a fantastic 2021.
All right, sports fans, it's time for the Unnamed Sports Show. Okay, sports fans, it's time for the Unnamed Sports Show with your host, Joshua Griffith.
I'm Joshua Griffith, and this is the Unnamed Canadian Sports Show for Sports Talk Line. So thank you very much for tuning in. This will be my first episode, so I just want to let you know what we'll be doing on here. For the most part, I'm just going to be breaking down sports. Hopefully when they come back, I'll be breaking down the actual sports. But for right now, we're going to be just breaking down what everything is happening. I'm going to give up some great interviews, hopefully, that everyone will enjoy. I'm going to be having some guests on from Sports Talk Line to go over various things, and basically just giving you a rundown of sports.
It's in Vegas or whatever, you get your 100,000 on the street that first round. Not too many people care as much about the second and third and fourth rounds as I do, obviously, but maybe have that day 2 and 3 at home and maybe make it a bit more personable that way. And like, I enjoyed it. Like, it was good to see. You could tell who was a first-year head coach, and you could tell who was a 15th-year head coach. Some of those houses that we saw were incredible. Guys are making some serious money. And then I look around here and go, well, what am I doing? I'm in the wrong house.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the stuff that I have is just because I was a fanboy so hard, and I stood outside arenas and, in freezing cold weather to just try and get them to sign stuff.
Yeah, we've all been there, mate. We've all been there.
I don't want anybody to get fooled by this. This is not that fancy of a background. There's like a lot of these are gifts, and but oh man, yes, some of the houses and boats. When you can say boats, some of the boats.
Yeah,
so
it was ridiculous.
With that, I want to get into the drafts. Like, so who are your winners and losers of the 2020 NFL draft?
I suppose it's sort of easy to judge teams now because there's no real info to sort of go off.
Yeah, well, I have a sports show that I'm talking about now.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and there's no other sports on, so you're gonna have to help me out. Okay, and make. Oh, I forgot to say my catchphrase. I'm gonna have a catchphrase. Love sports, all sports.
As David Braley has been for the league in terms of owning multiple teams, and obviously now the Lions for over 2 decades, that in actuality he's maybe not as close to the CFL's COVID-19 decision-making process and situation as some people might think he would be. He's getting a lot of his info, from what I'm told, from the president, Rick LaLacheur. So when he makes statements like that, to me, it's more of a power play in saying, hey, if we're going to be on the field as an owner and a private one that doesn't want to lose money,
there's a big emotional load that comes with that first game. A lot of new players. There were so many things building up into that game. And after talking with the players after that game against Kansas City, everyone felt, look, this is not us. We clearly underperformed. They couldn't find their legs. They were all upset. So for us as a staff is, okay, we're not going to change what we've been doing. This is who we are. This is who we want to be about. So we gave the players, the responsibility in a certain way to show us that it was that one-off, that it was this element of the first game, and that maybe the emotional load had something to do with it. And
I mean, he goes by Josh. I'm Joshua.
You're much more formal, by the way. I mean, I have more respect for you just by going by Joshua than I would if you were to, cut the couple letters off.
Well, my shows, I try and keep it a little bit formal. I try and have some fun, but keep it formal. That's why I wear a shirt, with a collar and all that jazz. Talked to Rick Dollywell, said, hey, if you're going to get into doing this, Jade Janauer is the person that you want to talk to. He's got the knowledge. So thank you again for joining me and taking the time.
Yeah, Rick and I go back quite a few years. He was working way up north, calling junior hockey. I grew up in Prince George, and then our paths crossed after BCIT. We were both cutting our teeth in the industry, and we've known each other for, I'm going to date myself, but we're going on 30 years. Is a business. It's a big business. I mean, they are losing millions of dollars. So at some point, you want your business to start up if it's your family restaurant, if it's the gas station or whatever it is. But you're taking such a risk, and you can't fault guys for.
Hey, thank you again for joining me. You'll be happy to know that JD, you've made him wait a couple minutes as he's been sitting in the waiting room here now. So.
Yeah, that's right. You wait for the province, Athletic.
I'm a mango smoothie guy. I make that every day. It's just not doing it for me.
No, sorry, Chris Faber.
Yeah, well, Chris Faber, I love him, but he's wrong.
We did have some news as they released their team awards, which are all, as I'm sure people know, voted on by the fans. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I voted Louis Eriksson for every single award. So I was a little disappointed when he didn't come away with any hardware this year. Right now, you have more than 5 minutes, and I'm not going to be throwing any fireballs at you like Arash Madani did yesterday.
Hey, I'd be cool with that too. You got to handle it when you step into the batter's box, right?
There you go. It's at a collegiate and even a high school level here in Canada.
Oh, the virus overall, you mean?
Yeah, just in general, and then the trickle-down effect as well. I'm interested in what your take on that is. Because obviously, I played some high school football there and then went on to play with the Vancouver Island Raiders in the Canadian Junior Football League. But so many filter leagues with U Sports, formerly CIS. I always almost screwed up, so I like to shout out to CIS Sport. But so there's all that the filters that are coming in. So we're kind of seeing a little bit of things about sports. But how do you think the trickle down effect is going to come for those things?
To me, we're already seeing it in U Sports in the sense that we've had two players go to a big-time Southeastern Conference school in the SEC, Ole Miss, one from the University of Guelph, Tavius Robinson, and the other from the University of Calgary in Dean Leonard. They had multiple offers to choose from, and Louisiana State University, the defending NCAA national champions, was in on both. They wanted both guys.
Canucks aren't live streaming these scrimmages, and this one's going to be a 7 p.m. Get the players some game action and let them get into what it feels like to have a morning skate, go home, have their nap, get into a game routine, right? So you're going to get all that from us. You're going to be getting some deep dives. I'm actually working on a deep dive of what Pug Colson is going to bring to the team. I've been watching a lot of this guy, and he is really impressive. And I think a lot of fans look at the 2 goals he scored in 30 games and say, okay, it's time to pump the brakes. But again, that's just not the case at all.
Fantastic conversation with 4-time Canadian Olympic snowboarder Mercedes Nicoll. This has probably been so far my favorite show
I might say that after everyone, but that's hopefully because I'm stepping my game up and getting better guests each and every show. Lee, thank you very much, as always, for all you do on the back end of the producer work. Rado has, I really try and swing for the fences with a lot of my guests. So the ones that, so like I said, I started things off with some great guests. And first off, I wanted to keep it Canadian with Jerome Blake, Canadian sprinter. Did a lot of soccer coverage, MLS, NHL, a little bit of everything. I got to chat with some Whitecaps players, some coaches, other aspiring media members, and some Vancouver media legends. So I tried to keep you guys informed every week on what sports were happening and what sports weren't happening as we really tried to navigate a scary COVID world at the beginning of 2020. Hi, I'm with Jerome Blake, Canada track and field athlete, and he's been nice enough to join me today. Here. See him.
Hey, mate. How you
Hey,
going?
Spinksy. Great. How are you?
Good, man. Congratulations on your first show.
Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for being my second guest and my first from Sports Talk Line. Fantastic. So joining me now from the Vancouver Whitecaps is the Director of Events and Entertainment, John Reese. I'm with that Serbian guy, Ranko Veselinovic, the newest Whitecaps player. Ranko, thank you very much for joining me.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
I'm excited to have on next on my show from the Canucks conversation, and a contributor on Canucks Army is Chris Faber. So, Chris Faber, thank you very much for joining me.
Hey, Josh, how's it going, man?
It's going great. How are you? Everybody's staying safe? Your family's doing good? Everything like that?
Yeah, everyone's doing good. We're all just living inside and making the grocery store run once a week. And other than that, just living life, man. Enjoying this little bit of weather. We got a big backyard here, so it's nice to enjoy that.
Yes.
Josh.
Hey, and so right now I'm actually being joined by, this is fantastic, by Phil Dos Santos, the assistant coach for the Vancouver Whitecaps. Hi, Phil. Thank you very much for joining me.
My pleasure, Josh. How are you?
I'm doing the Canadian Premier League, and now I'm being joined by Marcel Dijon from Pacific FC down in Victoria. Marcel, how are you? Thank you for joining me.
I'm good. Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you? Sean Warren from Area 51 podcast. Sean from Sports Talk Line is Nate Normour-Stody. And from the Vancouver Whitecaps is Maxime Crepeau.
Let's do this.
Okay, so I'm very pleased right now to be joined by Manuel Faith from Transfer Market and social media from the Brampton Beast. Adam Reed will be joining me. We're going to something that is your pay grade. So I'm here with Ken Reed, co-anchor on Sportsnet and best-selling author of Hockey Card Stories.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy I'll be joined by Rick Dollywall from TSN, by Peter Zimmerman from the Vancouver Southsiders. He is president of the supporters group. I have Jay Genauer from Global BC Sports, and being joined by JJ Adams of the Vancouver Province and Vancouver Sun, writer and editor. JJ, thank you for joining me.
I'm glad to be here, Josh. How are you today?
I'm now here by JD Burke of Elite Prospects, The Athletic, Rink Wide on TSN 1040. JD being joined by Justin Dunk of Three Down Nation, acting by Mercedes Nickel. Mercedes,
hi.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, because you're almost doing my interview for me myself. You're knocking off all the questions that I was going to answer, and it's just perfect. I was just going to say, I noticed you and Aaron Brown kind of developed a relationship, and he took on a mentor role with you. I was just going to ask you to talk about that a bit, but I mean, if you could elaborate a little bit more on it, like where did it start,
sure.
And how was it racing, together at the ACs, and then together, I guess, being, I mean, you were an alternate in Doha, but you were there, you were with the team. I'm sure that was just a surreal event, especially to be part of it with him.
Yeah. It's always fun with all those guys, because they've all, most of them have been to the Olympics once or twice already, and most of them are Olympic medalists and stuff like that. So it's one of those things where, they're there for you. Like, me being, that was my first world championships ever. That's my first world, like, it's like a world championship, buddy, because every time you go on the internet, you're seeing different things about your sport. So it's like kind of hard not to think about what you got, what you have, you know, coming up or what you're missing, kind of.
Yeah, and then you got these pestering sports guys who want to do interviews and remind you that there's no sports on and you're not doing it.
I mean, you know what? That's not true. There's sports on. I've learned a lot about bowling lately.
Bowling. We have Taiwanese baseball.
Yeah.
We have Korean baseball.
Yeah, that's not bad. I've never, you know, I've watched a lot of bowling lately. I don't know why, but yeah, bowling. It's quite interesting. Quite an interesting thing. And darts.
My dad's phoning me and said, "Oh, did you catch the UFC cards?" I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
You don't watch fighting?"
He does now. Yeah, I watched some as well. I used to be wicked into UFC. And then I liked it when it was a little more viewer friendly, when there was only a pay-per-view once every month or two.
Yeah.
You can kind of follow it. Now there's a lot to follow. But yeah, I mean, they're the only show in town, so obviously they're getting a lot of eyeballs and a lot of new eyeballs as well. So good on them. But although at times I think, gee, should guys really be fighting in these close quarters in these times? But hey, if they're cool with it and they want to do it, power to them.
The graphic that I wanted last week, but I didn't tell you about Lee, the M that still applies to Major League Baseball today. Yeah. That's right, folks. We're still looking at a dumpster fire. It's hard to continue to be a dumpster fire. So, hooray, MLB. Some news that actually is coming out of Major League Baseball this year. And wait, they're play ball. Yes. Disclaimer, this is live.
Got it.
Okay, so just want to make sure I'm asking all my guests during this obviously weird and crazy time. Are you staying safe and healthy and everything?
I am. I'm currently at my home office, so I'm all good.
Yes, I am at my makeshift home office too. I have wood floors, so there's a Superman blanket down, kind of buffer out some of the sound noise.
Yeah. So when I do my podcast, I like have a blanket somewhere near me.
Yeah. I actually have I have one on the window covering the lighting, so I can use my ring light a little bit better. And yeah, no, you have to make do with what you have right now.
You totally do. Make it work.
And especially someone who is doing their own podcast. I mean, I wasn't going to start with this, but since we're kind of going on that. Mercedes, can you talk a little bit about your podcast that you're doing, dropping in? I've caught the last bunch of episodes and I've just absolutely enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I started dropping and I was like, all right, let's try something new. And me and my friend tried it and I honestly never looked back. I was like, it was naturally easy for me. I came from a figure skating background as well. So edging, I understood it. And then I started like at little provincial contests or local contests in Whistler, and that led to going like throughout the province. And then I got invited to junior nationals and then junior worlds. And there I was, not ever dreaming of going to any Olympics, but that was the next big contest after competing at World Championships and World Cups and X Games that I was like, all right, I got to go where everyone is competing, and that's at the Olympics. First World Cup in Whistler and being like, what the heck am I doing? I don't know that I should be here. This is crazy, but it's my backyard, so it is what it is. And then getting on the podium, what I remember from that, it's actually a funny story. It was my first podium ever, as you said, at a World Cup. And I don't think many people know, but you get drug tested at World Cups, potentially. Like if you make it on the podium, it's not at every World Cup, but it was happening at this World Cup. And I was young and naive and didn't know that the people were coming. They come and find you and have to be with you the whole time. And they're like, we need to go. You need to go get drug tested. And the whole podium was at the base of the half pipe on Blackcomb, which was up the mountain. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to do what I'm told. Like, I'm going to go get drug testing. And I missed my whole podium.
No.
I learned the lesson the hard way.
So what are you supposed to tell them that just wait?
Yes.
I do my podium.
You tell them to wait.
See, no.
And well, how would you know that?
I took my guitar back out. I think it had been a long time since I'd taken it out. It was still in its box. I had to tune it up again, and I committed to teach my 4-year-old Portuguese. So my wife's been hammering me for a long time for not speaking enough Portuguese with him. So now we're at a point that he asks for his Portuguese lessons. He's throwing words. So there's been things that we do. I
noticed that yourself and the rest of the keepers were working a lot with keepers coach Joseph Da on like footwork, and it seemed it really paid off in the first 2 games. Is that something that you're comfortable with? I mean, I know some goalies that every time the ball comes to them, that just boot it right away.
No, it's important for a goalkeeper. The footwork is a lot of it's a lot of work for not much recognition in the game. It's not every single game that we'll have to use a footwork that people will see, oh, look at his footwork. No, it's more, it's a normal thing for us as goalkeepers to move your feet as quick as possible, to get places as quick as possible. Sometimes if you have good feet, it will save you from actually diving or get caught up in a 50-50. So if your feet is quick and you're light on your toes, well, it actually really helps you. And it's funny because today was the first session as a group, and that's what we did mostly, a lot of footwork and just technique, seeing the ball through. The first few days will be about getting the rhythm back. Players, goalkeepers, whoever you are, and if you stop for 2-3 months touching the ball, well, you'll be a little bit rusty when you came back to normal training, and it's normal.
And playing kind of like a World Cup style tournament with all 26 teams, it's yet to be decided the overall total format of that, but it looks like they're going to play 3 games at the beginning that will count towards a regular season, and then kind of a tournament. But we'll get more information as that all rolls along. Commissioner Don Garber has said the tournament will last no longer than 35 days. The MLS has also given players who have pre-existing conditions or who have family members with pre-existing conditions the ability to opt out of the tournament for obvious reasons, which I think is a great idea. We've already had some big names like Carlos Vela and Chicharito Hernandez who have opted out, and we're probably likely to see more depending on, the status of people's families. Like they both have wives that are pregnant, expecting kids, and also too, it's really not worth it to go down it and risk things until there's, more concrete vaccines, like Maxime said a little bit earlier when we talked.
Washington Post by Joff, the reporter, who was a very highly well-informed reporter. I have a lot of respect for him. And he said that it's going to be 3 group stage matches that will count towards MLS regular season standings. And then they're going to play a playoff format, kind of mini tournament, that those games will not count towards the round robin. So I'm curious to see how that's all going to work. I think it was a big ask for the players to go down there, because I think the original format was 6 games that they had thought about, plus playoffs, which would have been a lot of games, and 2 months away from the family. That's a big ask to be isolated away from friends, family, to live at Disney World Resort in Orlando. And I've been there. I've worked at the Florida Cup many years ago. It's not a fun place. I mean, especially when Disney is closed.
Whitecaps are making headlines for all the wrong reasons. And I was hoping to have CEO Axel Schuster join me today, but he is busy after, I don't know, probably more emails and phone calls that I've ever made trying to get somebody on my show. But he was busy, so he'll hopefully join me in weeks to come. But I was off getting my haircut, as everyone can see, I hope, anyways. And my phone just starts buzzing with the news that they had released Mark Panas, I guess is the word for it, and Axel Schuster would be taking over the role of CEO along with his sporting director role. So that was a little bit of a shockwave for everybody. They held a press conference shortly after, and it kind of left more questions than answers.
We are kind of limited to the hopes of Axel carrying this on impossible role, double role. Like it's really, given the changes coming and then the structure he had to build on the sporting side, like that's not going to go away, and that's still going to be a lot of work. And we haven't really heard of any other like changes in that structure, right? So like I trust our MDS and Axel, but I think that this might actually consume them, which is going to be detrimental to the actual, the players and the soccer, what we are also eager to wait and watch.
Yeah, that we're waiting for on July 8th, but like and 9th and 10th. But we're, like I was saying earlier in the show, I wish I could be talking and breaking down the Whitecaps group matchups.
Yeah. That would be
look,
nice.
you know what, Peter? This is my show, so let's talk about something positive. Okay, so me and you, we went down. We were in a big van with a bunch of other people. We went down for the Portland game, for the preseason game. What did you like about the Whitecaps this season? What did you like about the on-pitch stuff? So it might be a little while till we even get new players here, Vancouver.
Oh my! I did not know that.
I don't think a lot of people did, because
that's disappointing.
Repeatedly said that we were in a pandemic and 100 days and it affects things and all this. Okay, man, just say it's a cost-cutting move. It's okay.
Yeah, that would make it. At least that would be a reasonable explanation, and to probably has some truth to it. Like, definitely has some truth to it. Like, he did complain about losing money. Like, the league complains about losing money. We all are sort of losing money, and like people are like understand that. Like, this is exceptional, and like not hiring the head head scout, right? Like that's like that's a money decision. Like, and just don't say it outright that it's not. Like, it's like it is part of it. Like, no matter what you say, it's part. Like, finances are part of it. This is part of the business, right? So
yeah, like they almost think that like nobody's stupid. We're not like looking at this being like, oh, really? You're not losing a lot of money? New York Knicks, and being able to say that wasn't the most dysfunctional franchise that you've ever worked for. Okay, well, back to the pitch. Vancouver, they're going to take on San Jose Earthquake on July 15th, and they're going to end the group stage with the Seattle Sounders on July 20th. Mark talked about it, and you fired off a lot of great questions. Actually, I mean, I make sure I'm taking notes on not only what the coach is saying, but what some of you great journalists like JJ and Manuel Vaith are saying and asking. So, I mean, what did you make of his demeanor and attitude going into the tournament? Because he seemed like very business. And
yeah, I mean, he has to be very business, and I get it. I mean, his business is the business of soccer. But the more that you hang around with Marc Dos Santos, the more that you feel Marc Dos Santos, the person. He's a father. He wants to do right by his players, preparing them to play. But he's also a human being. He's also watching the news. He's also keeping track of the numbers. He's also talking to their medical specialists who they bring in on a regular basis to answer the players' questions. When you look at the numbers in Orlando right now, and when you look at, I think it was yesterday, there was 27 states where it was spiking big time. I think of a player like Andy Rose, who's diabetic, and I came in contact with my first person, a buddy of mine who lives in Carolina, the very first person I know who has COVID-19. His symptoms have been severe headaches as well as vomiting for 2 straight days. I worry about people with pre-existing conditions. So I think Marc Dos Santos in the back of his mind is worried about his players' overall well-being. Taking them into that bubble and winning soccer games is one thing, but putting people's lives at risk, is another. And I think when we look at the United States, if we're being perfectly honest, I can ask you right now, would you hop on an airplane? And I guarantee you'll say no.
Nope. Doing good. You're doing better than FC Dallas.
Man, I am not. I don't have the Rona, as far as I know. I'm symptom free. I haven't had swab shoved into my nasal cavity yet. But as far as I know, I'm healthy. But man, FC Dallas, 9 players, 1 member of their coaching staff. That's like a third of their team, and they're supposed to play the Whitecaps a week from today, so next Thursday. And I don't know why this team sort of gets in the way of itself. Maybe they didn't think there would be this big of a reaction or outcry to the dismissal of an executive, a front office member. I mean, I can't think of any other team or situation where it's been quite so visceral, where you have people publicly demonstrating that they're going to cancel their season tickets and, that's it. They're done with this team. It's over from the firing of a president. But I think what happened was Mark Panis had made so many inroads to repairing the damage to the relationship with the supporters and the community. And it felt like the team was really moving in a direction that so many people wanted them to go after a very tough past 2-3 years. I mean, we don't even have to go further back than that, just the last 2-3 years. And to have that kind of ripped away from them, I think was very, very upsetting. Now, the reasons behind it, we'll probably never know publicly, but it's really hard to imagine that a guy who was the president of a club in Serie A, there was a guy who was
MLS is back. It actually happened, despite FC Dallas dropping out of the tournament on Monday and Nashville being announced that Thursday morning that they were out of the tournament as well. We had the first men's North American major sports back. And that's right. I said major North American sports. At me all you want. It's a major sport. Okay. Orlando City SC and Inter, right into the Whitecap stuff before we go over to my first guest and we get you caught up with the Canucks. The Whitecaps, they blew a 2-goal lead twice yesterday night en route to a 4-3 loss to San Jose Earthquake. What do you make of the San Jose Earthquake comeback last night?
Yeah, that was one of the more ridiculous sporting events I can remember watching. Although, to be fair, I barely remember anything from before 4 months ago, it feels like. So, maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment on that one. No, that was totally insane. Just from the own goal that put the Whitecaps up 2-0. I mean, even before that, Ali Adnan's opener was quite the opener. But then you have the own goal when the game went from kind of weird and funky to into another realm of bizarre. And after that, San Jose coming back, scored a nice goal of their own right before halftime, and then another huge mistake by the Quakes put the Caps up 3-1, and then 3 unanswered in the final 20 minutes there. I guess 30 when you account for the 10 minutes stoppage time. But yeah, totally bonkers, totally MLS, and I don't know. It felt appropriate that a game like that would be happening in front of 0 fans between 2 West Coast teams in a swamp in Central Florida on a Wednesday night during the middle of a global pandemic. So yeah, I don't even really know where to begin, but.
And to end it with a flare. And to end it with a flare too, right?
I mean, I don't know. Vancouver's center backs did not cover themselves in glory at any point really last night. But that last play, I'm still very confused how Shea Salinas was allowed to run, 40 yards into the box without anyone really stepping to him, someone running alongside of him but unable to catch up. And then into the box, just basically ran through as strong, I feel like, because it's not like it was like a running back breaking tackles, but just going right through both center backs. How does that happen? I don't know, but here we are, and it ended in sadness for Vancouver, of course. It was not an encouraging performance, to say the least, for Thierry Henry and his group. But they have some talent too. They have some good players. Victor Wanyama, Boyan, Now I know Boyan's had an up and down run here, but he's obviously plenty skilled. I'm a fan of Sam Piet, and they have some other guys on that team that are more than solid. Tyder, plenty of talent as well. So I'm curious to see. I didn't think Thierry got the tactics right in the first game against New England. It's kind of a weird shape that he came out in. And he came out and he blasted the players for their effort after the match. So curious to see how they'll respond, particularly against a rival like TFC, who had some issues of their own in their opener against DC United. Going up 2 goals, going up a man, and then blowing it in the final 10 minutes. So I don't know. That was a 9 a.m. game too, so maybe the Heat played a role there. They had to sub off both of their center backs due to cramps. So, that never helps. Having said that, I am curious to see what they look like. I thought Pozuelo and Piatti showed some good signs. I actually thought Bradley was very good for most of that game in the opener. And we'll see if Josie Altidore makes his debut in Orlando, although I don't really expect him to. But his replacement, Ayo Akinola, 20-year-old, scored 2 goals, 1 very nice goal.
Yes.
Which was encouraging to see for anyone who follows the development of the younger players in the league.
And we do up here in Canada for those Canadian national team players, of course, and some of the younger American too that are.
Yeah, well, Akinola, U.S. youth guy. So we'll see.
We're gonna keep things in Canada because the Vancouver Whitecaps, as mentioned, they're down the bubble. They're trying to stay as safe as possible. Despite Nashville dropping out of the tournament, it sounds as though the cases were caught outside the bubble, which is good news for the other team in the tournament, that it's going to keep going. Like I said, we've already had the 2 games. We have one scheduled for later this evening between the Montreal Impact and the New England Revolution. So check that out. If you mentioned on Tuesday about the testing, I just wanted to know if the teams had any further testing, and if you could just talk a little bit more about the safety protocols on the 10th floor there, and then just in MLS in general.
Yeah, we had a new testing today, and we will get tested. So the protocol about testing is very easy. We got 2 testings in the first 24 hours, and now we get tested every second day. And additionally, if that do not fit with every second day, the day before our game. So then we maybe have an additional test. The protocols itself are that every floor is isolated. Nobody is allowed to enter a floor of another team. So the other thing is everybody has to wear a mask at every single place. There are only 2 exceptions. That is your own room, and that's the pitch for the players on the pitch. And we have to keep social distancing. We have sanitizers all over the place. So I think that's the main rules that everybody has to respect. We created some of our own rules, for example, to make the entrance to our floor more safe. So everybody has to hand sanitize before he enters our floor. It's only one issue to take care that nobody has it somehow at one place from the elevator or wherever and brings us onto our floor. But I think that are the main rules you all know also from everywhere. And yes, if it is like that, what I said before, that we don't have any more positive cases, that should mean if we keep wearing a mask and keep staying distanced, there is a very good chance not to get it at any time in the next few weeks.
Awesome, thank you.
We're on to something, and I think a lot of NFL teams are incorporating their style of play. For instance, they only have 3 downs, and so it puts a lot more pressures on their quarterbacks to make plays in 2 downs, where I think that's the way the NFL is heading right now. Just the desperation, I shouldn't say the desperation, but the urgency to get out of 3rd down situations. It seems to be the case a lot, at least amongst the top teams in the league.
Well, and something too that the NFL has seemed to adopt from the CFL is just in regards to all the motion the CFL can use. You're seeing it now a lot with the fly offenses and stuff, and trying to get multiple people moving at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of things you can learn, particularly in the way, just the openness in which they play.
Okay, well, that's all. That was more CFL than I thought I was going to get out of you. So that's good.
Well, do I get my citizenship now? Come on, I indulged.
It's pretty much that easy. I think you gotta like sing the national anthem properly.
Watch hockey.
Ride a moose holding a Tim Hortons coffee while watching hockey or something like that, and then here's your card.
Well, I kiss a picture of Justin Trudeau before I go to bed every night, so I'm hoping that helps.
Well, better than Justin Bieber, who's also Canadian.
Well, why not include both of them? I mean, you're getting political and you're getting entertainment, and I indulged you in your sports talk, okay? So that's the trifecta.
That's true. I'm really, Rado's going to have his work cut out from after his fishing trip with all this ass around. So grew up a big BC Lions fan. Justin, am I going to get to see them play this year?
Dude, I wish I had a concrete answer for you. But as you know, with all the other sports leagues, it's just so uncertain with the virus. However, I do think there recently has been some optimism because, and you mentioned the numbers there in BC and how they're really essentially leveled off. In the Western provinces, it almost doesn't exist, I was going to say, except for Alberta. And in the East, it seems to be leveling off, especially in Ontario and Montreal. So I really kind of think here over the last little while that there's a renewed sense that, hey, we might actually be able to see some Canadian Football League games in 2020.
The CFL being such a gate-driven league, and, they have their TV deal in place, obviously, with TSN. You mentioned Wednesday on Tim and Sid that it's going to cost probably between $2 to $3 million per team in a hub city style proposal, if that's what they want to do at the beginning. What do you think the league's going to need to try and do to offset some of these costs and also cover, the cost of the players moving forward?
And that's the one that I think they're going to try to get covered by the government, the player costs, or the player salaries, I should say. They're going to propose a scenario where they tell the government that the CFL is just like any other business in Canada, that it's been directly impacted by COVID-19 and not in any other factor. So a lot of those businesses have their employees on the CERB program or some sort of a government program, so they're still drawing an income, even if they're not working, right? It's pretty commonplace now. So that's where they're going to make the argument for the CFL players, because they're not drawing on any of those Canadian government programs yet. So I think if they can get past the CBA and then agree on the safety protocols to get back on the field, then ideally they would both go to the government, the league, and the players with that proposal. And I think there would be a better chance of them actually getting that money to cover the players' salaries, because a lot of it's going to be dumped right back into the Canadian economy anyways. And I think it could be seen as a sort of generator for the economy to get going as we sort of progress through.
At a collegiate and even a high school level here in Canada.
Oh, the virus overall, you mean?
Yeah, just in general, and then the trickle down effect as well. I'm interested in what your take on that is, because obviously, I played some high school football there, and then went on to play with the Vancouver Island Raiders in the Canadian Junior Football League. But so many filter leagues with U Sports, formerly CIS. I always almost screwed up, so I like to shout out to CIS Sport. But so there's all that the filters that are coming in. So we're kind of seeing a little bit of things about sports, but how do you think the trickle down effect is going to come for those things?
To me, we're already seeing it in U Sports in the sense that we've had two players go to a big time Southeastern Conference school in the SEC, Ole Miss, one from the University of Guelph and Tavius Robinson, and the other from the University of Calgary in Dean Leonard. They had multiple offers to choose from, and Louisiana State University, the defending NCAA national champions, was in on both. They wanted both guys. Ed Orgeron, go Tigers, was talking to Robinson, trying to get him to flip his commitment. So to me, what you're getting at in terms of the trickle-down effect is we're going to lose some of those high-caliber athletes, and already have, to the NCAA, because they're seemingly doing all they can to get on the field. And then also we're likely going to lose, I should say, essentially a year of football across Canada. And there's already some ramifications of that coming out in terms of what that might mean for the future, right? We saw Stanford, a major university in the United States who has a big budget, cut 11 of their varsity teams. So to me, when you look at that and what COVID-19 has done at Stanford, to me, I start thinking, well, what is the implications going to be in Canada? And I think we haven't really even broached it. Yes, the U Sports football season has been canceled. The RSEQ in Quebec, they're going to still try to play, although it seems, doubtful that they're going to be doing so. They're trying to wait it out. But I just think overall, you even mentioned the junior football leagues, they're going to try to give it a go as well. And I definitely think it can be done in a certain way, and especially the provinces that are pretty low. But I mean, overall, I just think that trickle-down effect, and even you get into the high school level, is they might just not have the money to get on the field because of all the testing protocols that you're going to have to follow.
Yeah, I definitely think that Brogan Rafferty is going to come right in and be on this Canucks team next year. Just talked to him this past weekend, put out an article on Canucks Army, which was a lot of fun. Very confident kid, which is great to see. I mean, the fact that guy was not drafted, comes in as a rookie and does what he does at the AHL level, like the confidence is skyrocketing through him. And that's a guy who, didn't go through the regular way of making it to the NHL, but I think he's here next year. I think he makes an impact. I think he's a guy that can replace either Chris Tanev or Troy Stecher, whichever one of those two guys ends up not being re-signed by the Canucks. But as for
Brackett or Benning,
hard to decide. I mean, work as a team, when they're working together, they're great. I think when they've been doing their drafting, if you put more of it on one than the other, it's tough, because I think that Judd Brackett's a guy who specializes in American prospects. Look who the Vancouver Canucks have as some of their top prospects. Jack Rathbone's an American, Adam Gaunett's an American, even Aiden McDonough, who I'll be speaking with this weekend, who's just tearing it up with Northeastern in the NCAA. He's another American guy that was probably a Judd Brackett pick. He's making a huge difference on this team. No matter how you slice it, Judd Brackett is a huge piece of this Vancouver Canucks team. I want to see him stay here for the long term. I just don't know if that's going to happen. So
this time the Canucks actually did have some news as they released their team awards, which are all, as I'm sure people know, voted on by the fans. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I voted Louis Eriksson for every single award. So I was a little disappointed when he didn't come away with any hardware this year.
Quote, have some stuff to do on the boat, going fishing in the Manana. Well, if we could all be as lucky as Rado and go fishing tomorrow, wouldn't that be nice? So I hope you catch nothing tomorrow on your fishing trip, Rado. And I really thought we were friends, and I'm actually taking this extremely personal right now. But make sure to check out Rado's article, because I'm not actually taking it that personal. So that moves me right along. We're going to move into some NHL news, because there was a lot of NHL news in the last couple of days. And if you haven't been following it, then you missed everything. So Gary Bettman made an announcement on Tuesday about the NHL and the NHLPA agreeing on a plan to return a 24-team playoff format with the top four from each conference receiving a bye into kind of a round-robin style tournament with regulation, overtime rules applying, and that will determine the top four seeds. Tampa Bay, Washington, Philadelphia, and Boston will be the four teams from the Eastern Conference that receive byes, while St. Louis, Vegas, Colorado, Dallas, St. Louis, Vegas, Colorado, and Dallas will play in the round-robin tournament. Sorry, I told you in the first couple episodes that I don't have a strong suit with math. So the other 16 teams will be playing in a qualifying tournament, and their percentage points at the end of the regular season determine their standings for it. So that means we're going to kind of see an NCAA-style matchup for the first play-in tournament, and it has yet to be decided by the NHL what we're going to be doing for the first and second actual rounds of the playoffs. They've already said that the conference finals and the Stanley Cup will be 7 games, but they have to figure out, and I guess that would be kind of, time restraint wise, what they're going to be doing with the first and second round. So they don't know if they're going to reseed things or if they're going to do a bracket style. We'll figure that out. So some of the intriguing matchups will be obviously the teams that kind of were on the bubble, the teams don't think should have made it. The number 5 seed Edmonton Oilers and Pittsburgh Penguins against the Blackhawks and Montreal Canadiens. Carey Price could steal a best of 5 series for sure. So, there could be some intriguing things coming out with that. The Vancouver Canucks, which I'm sure everybody in Vancouver is excited about, that we actually get to talk about something other than Judd Brackett or, I guess, I want to get more into talking about the actual hockey that we're going to get backstage. Because, we got a couple months now to dissect everything. What matchups, obviously, there's the Canucks Wild one, but what matchups are you looking most forward to?
I think that even series that are like Columbus versus Toronto, I think that there's some potential there for some great storylines to come out of that. Of course, with that one in particular, Columbus uprooting Tampa Bay historically in a 4-game sweep. Obviously not as strong as they were last season with departures from some major players, but I think Columbus is a very underrated team coming in. Could give Toronto a lot of difficulty, especially since Toronto runs a very similar style to Tampa Bay. So that could be an interesting one to watch.
We're gonna have a series between us. Like, it's not gonna be a 3-game sweep for the Canucks. Like, if Canucks fans, if that's what you're thinking, chill down a little bit here. We have two really good teams. They're not that far off, separated in points. So we're gonna get some good hockey out of this.
Well, I'm pretty evenly matched, right? Like, Minnesota's turned into, and this is kind of strange to say this, but they've turned into more of an offensive team. They've got good defensive principles that have been instilled in them from the Boudreau era. They have goaltending that can step up, but it's not necessarily always a factor. But they also have some pretty cumbersome contracts and guys that aren't that great and end up taking up a roster spot for them, much like the Vancouver Canucks. So
no wonder there are rivals.
Exactly. It's
rivals.
Yeah, it was meant to be that we would face the Minnesota Wild.
But being a Canadian, you got to like that Calgary and Winnipeg matchup. Two strong teams, with great histories. It'll be great to see those two teams facing off. And, the best thing we can hope for, and we know, is that one team is making it onto the second round, and every team we get into the second round, it's Canada's opportunity to get the cup back home or want to get seen. You get guys who are on the cusp of the AHL, who now may get an opportunity if it should arise. And guys in the ECHL, all season long, they're signing PTOs. We had a few guys sign PTOs in Utica and stuff, and they're always looking for the next opportunity, to improve themselves, to showcase themselves. So if anything that positive can come out of it, then yeah, absolutely. You could definitely see guys, get an opportunity and to show what they can do. Virtually we got an extended training camp. Some of these guys who wouldn't be up until September, they have 2 weeks now, could be in for a long playoff run.
Yeah, geez, I've written, I think five have been published by now, and I got another one coming out this fall called One to Remember. It's kind of a loose follow-up to One Night Only. It's about guys who scored a single NHL goal. So that was supposed to be officially done today, but a little hiccup. So we'll get her done hopefully by
for Vancouver. But I think just Toronto, they really want to have it in Toronto just because of how everything is just so already set up there.
I don't know how you can have it in Toronto, though. This is where the majority of the cases are in Ontario. So
they're opening everything else in Florida.
Florida? Florida's a whole different kettle of fish. Florida's Florida.
When I look at the uncertainty of the American Hockey League, that's why Reed Boucher went overseas. We don't know when the American League's going to start next year. One of the reasons Jack Rathbone has not made a decision so far today is because he doesn't know when the American Hockey League is going to start. If Rathbone says yes to the Canucks and he signs, and the American League doesn't start till January, and the Canucks don't start till later, and so what does he do for 4, 5, 6 months? Just sit at home? So the uncertainty of the American Hockey League is certainly causing a lot of players and agents headaches right now. That is for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna definitely see some shakeups in a lot of markets as well as for that. So what do you, a couple other guys? What do you think about Levo, Josh Levo, and Troy Stetcher? What do you think the Canucks are going to do with those guys?
Well, Josh Levo, it sounds like, a broken kneecap, that's a pretty serious injury. It doesn't sound like he's close. And if the Canucks were to ever start their season in, let's say, early August or late July, the early word and the feeling is that he may not be ready. But that's a pretty serious injury, a broken kneecap. Not many players get that, but that hit from behind he took, boy, oh boy. Troy Stetcher is an interesting case because he's an RFA. He's a guy that's got arbitration rights, so he could take the Canucks to ARB. He's in a similar boat as Ben Hutton was. Yeah. When you got arbitration rights, and if the team thinks, here's the thing about hockey, you don't get 500 million chances. There's a window for every draft pick. Reed Boucher was a high draft pick. There's a window for everybody. When you get drafted in the NHL, you sign a 3-year contract if you sign. So after that 3 years, they decide if you get more or they cut you loose, or some draft picks don't even get signed. They're free agents at 20. There's a window. And every year that goes by, teams draft 7 more players, and all of a sudden there's, new media darlings. You look at Pod Colson and Hoglander, and you look at them, and everybody wants them in the lineup, and hey, there's the new shiny toy. You don't get 30, 40 chances at the NHL level. At some point, you got to, and Reed's been called up by the Canucks, and he doesn't, when he gets called up, he doesn't get a ton of ice time. And to be effective, those top 6 players need a ton of ice time. He's getting that ice in the American League, but some guys were just born to play in the American League. Some were born to play in the East Coast Hockey League. Some were born to play in the NHL. It's an age thing, like you mentioned. He's getting up there, but it's also, when you get that opportunity, when you get called up, you got to do something with it. Pod Colson is a guy that, and rightfully so, he's going to, one more year in Russia. He'll probably be the captain of that Russian World Junior team under Igor Larionov.
We had some exciting news, I guess depends on what side you're on, in regards to hub cities this morning that came right out of you guys, out of Global BC and Richard Zusman. So Vancouver is apparently off the list right now of hub cities. How do you feel about that one?
Well, here's the thing. Fingers crossed that we see pro sports come back and then they can start and finish. My concern is you start and you don't finish, and then the effects with people getting sick, as well as how that affects business down the line. People forget, if we don't see hockey, and this is coming from the people that I've spoken with, NHL executives, players, as well as high-profile agents. You're going to see a trickle-down effect here if you don't see hockey. You're going to see television contracts. You're going to see, literally hundreds and hundreds of $1 million at play here. If you see hockey, and if a lot of eyeballs go on hockey, the business of hockey improves, because when it comes time to negotiating your next contract in the United States, you can point and say, look at these great ratings.
Yeah.
As far as the city of Vancouver, you and I as hockey fans are going to watch hockey regardless where it is.
Yep.
I have a real problem with the NHL continuing to try to muscle, massage, maneuver medical health officials towards their agenda. And Dr. Bonnie Henry has done a great job the way that she has guided our province. And, my Mother's Day salute, I saluted Dr. Bonnie Henry because I said she's been our province's mother, the way that she's tended to all of us. You can't change the rules for professional athletes. No. I'm sorry. If you're coming into our province, we all follow the same rules. Now, as far as the hub cities, I know that the NHL went back to teams on Friday throughout the weekend, asking them to look back into their bids, to do some revising. I think overall, the last thing I want to say on this is there's a lot of politics at play. And I've always had the sneaky suspicion that Toronto would get in there for a couple reasons. One, proximity to league headquarters. And secondly, the bulk of your players, Canadian players, are based in Toronto, as is one of your rights holders. So that's always been my sneaky suspicion. They'd come in through the back door. Everyone else would be kind of reeled in. We'll get the excitement going. And then the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. And I think that's what we're going to see. Told the amount of money from this last pay period is anywhere from 6 to 8% of total payroll for the entire National Hockey League players. I've been told the players are more than willing to hand it over to the owners and to put it in escrow if they decide not to play. So that's another thing to keep in mind as this process, the deeper we go down the lane on this process. So there is a lot of balls in play here, and they still have to vote on it.
News coming out of the NHL today as they've finally decided on their 2 hub cities. Bob McKenzie reported earlier this morning that it looks like it's going to be Edmonton and Toronto. We had weeks of speculation coming out that the cities were going to be Vancouver, Vegas, or different things. Even Chicago and LA were down to, kind of last of the 4 teams that were in it. It's probably the best decision by the NHL in regards to the safety of the players. Once Dr. Henry was like, no, BC, I don't think so. Then it, it was basically a lock, it being Toronto and Edmonton there. That being said, with, all of the media infrastructure already in place in Toronto. Bob McKenzie.
You can't trust those Canucks guys, man. They're all over the place. They're, dumping on poor Jake Virtanen or whatever they may be. So yeah, you gotta treat them careful.
Poor Jake can't even go out to celebrities.
Let me tell you, this is my Jake Virtanen story. When I have not met him, but when I meet him in person, I'm gonna give him an apology, because back before he joined the Canucks and he's playing in the World Juniors, I came up with a headline that caused a little bit of a furor. It was GOAT medal winner. It was Jake Virtanen, and people just went off. They thought we were dumping on the local kid. All I was trying to say was that he was getting blamed for all of Team Canada's shortcomings, but people took it the other way, like we were blaming Jake for it. So he took a lot of heat for that. We took a lot of heat for that. So next time I see him, I'm gonna give him an apology from one Jake to another.
We have our 2 hub cities.
We do.
Edmonton and Toronto. I mean, the players have to be excited about those Rocky Mountains in Edmonton. Oh man, they're beautiful.
I was listening to, and I don't think anybody in Vancouver listens to this podcast either, because this market has a peculiar relationship with one of its hosts, but I was listening to Puck Soup. I think it was Puck Soup, and somebody pointed out, like, Edmonton using the Rockies as a selling point in that Jason Kenney video is about equivalent to Las Vegas putting out a video and trying to use the Grand Canyon as a selling point, because the Grand Canyon actually might be a quicker drive from Vegas than the Rocky Mountains are.
So obviously this is what the people want to know. How is the team looking, David? How's the first week of retraining camp?
Well, obviously it's tough to tell. There's been some moments of frustration from Jacob Markstrom, and that's something that I think a lot of people have kind of noted. Him, smashing his stick over the crossbar, almost decapitating Elias Pettersson in doing so. And then, after the conditioning stint that the losing team of these scrimmages is put through, not too happy again. He got beat 5-hole by Jay Beagle on that goal where he smashed his stick over the crossbar and broke it, a la Anders Nilsson. And you just notice those moments of frustration. And obviously Jacob Markstrom isn't happy with how he's playing right now. But again, it's training camp and it's preseason. So Travis was asked about it today on the Zoom call we had with him. He was asked about what he thinks of Jacob Markstrom's performance. And, obviously the insinuation there is that, he's obviously having some trouble here and he's not super happy with his own performance. So what do you see? And again, Travis was just like, I think he looks fine. I'm least worried about Jacob Markstrom going into this play-in series. He's going to be fine. He looks fine. I have no problems with the way he's playing. And, that helps, hearing that from a head coach, right? That vote of confidence that you're going to be fine. It's not like Green's now asking himself, oh man, do I got to start Travis Green during the play-in series? Because the absolute last thing this team needs going into this play-in series and this playoff run potentially is a goaltending controversy. We all know how those end. So we would link stints that people have to do after they play the game. And absolutely. Like, the intensity is picked up with each day of training camp. And I think tonight's scrimmage is going to be, as Demko said, the most competitive one yet. And I think you're going to continue to see that until the Canucks are ready for game action. I mean, they're one of the 24 teams that don't look like they're ready to play a National Hockey League playoff game, but they will be eventually, and that's how they get there. And I think, having your guys want it that badly and not want to do that conditioning helps everybody play a little harder and helps that competitive edge. Yeah,
absolutely. So I understand too that Jake Virtanen was also on the Zoom media availability today. How does Jake feeling about training camp? And it looks like his conditioning is actually pretty top notch compared to the rest of the team.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I heard about Jake being in good shape. He had ice when he was in Kelowna, I believe, during the quarantine that all of his teammates had to go through. A lot of the guys in Sweden even didn't have access to ice. Markstrom wasn't really on the ice much. Markstrom was. Pettersson wasn't, rather. But Jake Virtanen actually showed up, and he looks like he's in shape. The Canucks have had bag skates on basically every day, and he hasn't looked worse for wear. Whereas you compare that to the first training camp we saw this year, he's hunched over, going to the bench during the bag skate. He's the only Canuck that needed to do that. That's not a good look for Jake, and he knew that. He knew he needed to come in shape here. And quite frankly, it looks like he delivered on that. And I mean, Travis was very, very open with his players on this. He said, look, I've lost 15 to 20 pounds. There's no excuse for you to come in not in shape. And obviously there's an excuse for guys not to quite have their legs under them yet. Some errors with the puck, without the puck, whatever. There's going to be that it's like any training camp in the sense that you need to get up to game speed, and it's taking guys some time, sure. And I mean, the way I look at it is there's been guys who look great in, guys like Brock Besser, Jay Beagle. They look awesome. They've looked great at this training camp so far, especially Brock Besser. And then everybody else just kind of looks what you would expect.
A lot has been made of the Canucks' recent signing of Jack Rathbone, and your colleague over at Canucks Army and Canucks Conversation, Chris Faber, was big on this one. So I was just wondering if you could touch on that a bit.
Yeah, so Jack Rathbone, what does this guy bring to the table? Well, he's got legitimate top four upside, and Brett Lee from Canucks Army is currently working on a deep dive filled with video about what this guy is really going to bring to the table and what the Canucks are really getting in this guy, because he is somebody who I personally, and Chris even, hasn't seen play too much. Like, we haven't watched too many Harvard games, admittedly, but the people I talk to and trust all tell me the same thing. Like, this guy is really, really good. Like, you watch clips of him skate and you watch clips of him move the puck, and you see similarities to Quinn Hughes when he wheels around the net and the way he protects the puck with his smaller frame. He's only 5'11", right? When he does that, you see a player who has the potential to be that good 1-2 punch. And if your left side is looking like Quinn Hughes, Jack Rathbone, and then you have Alex Edler in a third pairing role, or you have Jack Rathbone in a third pairing role, you take that any day of the week. And
you mentioned that, just that little push. I mean, is that something that like the fans do kind of give you that extra little boost at the times, when you're in your home squad or when you're on away and you get those, the boos coming at you? I mean, that actually gives you that little extra push, eh?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I mean, just an example, if you have to take a corner, or for example, and you rile up the fans, or like, come on guys, and they get behind you and they start screaming, and it just gives a little extra motivation, and they get a little extra energy. Even the defending, when they start shouting at the opponent, like get out of here, whatever, and all that. So it goes into your mind, and it's like, there's nothing that's going to help, nothing going to pass us. They're not going to score, or we're going to score, So it's that little extra that the fans give us. So yeah.
So you hear that, fans? Make sure that you're yelling and screaming as loud as you can when you come out, because it actually does something. I mean, I just ended with Phil talking about that, how one of the things that I've been enjoying about this is just the added family time and things, you can take away from it with your friends and stuff. So, I mean, I know you have a young elementary school age daughter. Are you the one doing the homeschooling duties, or?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I still think I'm doing a good job. It's not easy. I respect the teachers a lot more now. So that's something I've noticed. I mean, it's not easy to keep the kids focused. I'm already struggling with one kid keeping her focused, but no, it's good. And but I'm doing like lots of stuff with her, like 2 or 3 times a week. She has like online school with her classmates, so that's good. I heard they're going back to school maybe end of the month. So that's obviously a relief. Yeah. Can't wait for that. So no, it's good.
No, it should be good. And then, I mean, speaking of good, we actually have live football back now with the K League, and then Bundesliga resuming play this week. So did you watch any of it at all?
No, to be honest, didn't watch. Obviously, I watched the highlights and all that. I do, but I didn't really watch it live. But yeah, what I did notice is obviously the no fans, so that's kind of sad. I mean, obviously the game without soccer, soccer without fans is obviously not the same, because obviously the fans, that make the atmosphere and they get you that little extra push in the last 10, 15 minutes, whatever. So it was kind of sad to see, but hopefully that will change soon.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that you mentioned that, just that little push. I mean, is that something that like the fans do kind of give you that extra little boost at the times, when you're in your home squad or when you're on away and you get those, the boos coming at you? I mean, that actually gives you that little extra push, eh?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. I mean, just an example, if you have to take a corner, or for example, and you rile up the fans, or like, come on guys, and they get behind you and they start screaming, and it just gives a little extra motivation, and they get a little extra energy. Even the defending, when they start shouting at the opponent, like get out of here, whatever, and all that. So it goes into your mind, and it's like, there's nothing that's going to happen. Yeah, it's crazy. And then you just the bus ride to the stadium, like the last couple hundred meters, the fans are like slapping and they're hitting the bus, and and then you hear them. You can see, you don't even speak Spanish, but they're like cursing you like so bad. Not even there like to support you, just they're letting you know like you guys are in for a fight. And those are the moments, passing by me.
Such a cool experience.
Yeah.
Be relegated to stay in that first tier.
Yeah. And it's really, really, really amazing. And they're still in the Bundesliga, still haven't relegated.
Yes.
So there's been now for 9-10 years now in the Bundesliga. So it's amazing. And so that's obviously playing against Robin and Ribéry and all those big names. It's just an amazing experience. And playing in the Bayern Munich Stadium or in Dortmund, the yellow wall, 30,000 fans just behind the net. It's just an unbelievable experience. And you see Marco Reus or Ribéry going at me as a left back. You kind of shit your pants a little bit. You're kind of scared. But it's especially in away games. But it's a fun experience, and it was good. It was nice.
I 2-2. Wolfsburg was destroyed by Leverkusen 4-1. It should have been probably a better game, but we got what we got. So the Bundesliga continues to move right along, and Bayern Munich just pretty much solidified the top of the seed with a 5-0 win against Dusseldorf. And guess who scored again? Alphonso the Roadrunner Davies. Okay, it was a bit of a ticky-tack goal, but I'll take it.
Like you, I am based on Vancouver Island for most of the year. Currently all of the year, because we're not really traveling. I split my time between the Canadian West Coast and Germany, and right now that splitting has literally gone down to just staying here, which has been hard because usually I travel back and forth between here and Germany to cover the Bundesliga, and that's obviously not happening right now. The life has been very restricted, but at the same, I hope this is only just a brief moment in time for how the sport is going to be like. But obviously, the Bundesliga, a big selling point for that league is the fan culture. And fan culture is currently not happening, and that's a sad reality of this virus. It lives and strives in big crowds, and big crowds is just something that we can't have in the Bundesliga. So it's unfortunate in some ways that that's how it is. I am very happy that the football is back again. I work in the industry. I'm one of the 56,000 people that is directly employed by Bundesliga football. It's a huge part of the economy in Germany it's a big part of the economy worldwide. Sport in general is a big part of the economy worldwide. So like every other industry, it's tried to come back and survive in these very difficult times. And I'm glad that the Bundesliga has found a very good way of dealing with it. I mean, I was in close contact with the DFL, the governing body of the Bundesliga. I've spoken to Christian Seifert, who's the CEO. You know, I guess in North American terms, he would be the commissioner, like the equivalent of Don Garber or Gary Bettman of the Bundesliga. And I interviewed him now a couple of times. I spoke to some other people in the Bundesliga, and the concept is very good. The hygiene concept that the Bundesliga has come forward with is fantastic. They have done a tremendous job working under very difficult circumstances to get football back going. And I think,
I talked to Marcel de Jong last week from Pacific FC, and he mentioned, something that he was really sad about is getting back without having the fans there. So you can tell that it's really important to the football players too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, they live off that. I think a big part of going into a stadium is to experience that fan noise and crowd. And I always will remember seeing Erling Haaland coming out for his first game at Signal Iduna Park in Dortmund, and just his smile on his face when he looked towards that yellow wall. I mean, it means a lot to these players, and every player that you talk to, the players that play in German football, they're just so impressed by the atmosphere that is created in a lot of these stadiums, and that's just missing. I mean, they're basically, essentially for them, they're playing in an atmosphere that is not too dissimilar to training grounds, right? And that must be very difficult.
Besides MLS, Bayern Munich, congratulations to them. They clinched their 8th consecutive Bundesliga title on Tuesday with a 1-0 win against Werder Bremen. Congratulations to them. Alphonso Davies, that's 2 titles now in a year and a half. So good for the Roadrunner. Tells you that he's got time to talk, then that's the time he takes. So I was really excited for this interview. So I'll have Lee cue this up here, and I really hope everyone enjoys this Canucks talk as much as I enjoyed talking to Rick this morning. Myself, but I know lots of people out there are, so congratulations to Liverpool again and all you Liverpool supporters, because it has been a long time coming for all you guys.
Hey, Joshua, before we even talk about the MLS and the schedule, I love your setup, but there's a Liverpool flag back there, a scarf, pardon me. I'm surprised you don't have it on, the fact that they've finally clinched the Premier League Championship. First time in the modern era, we're talking over 30 years, you've got it hanging on the wall. It looks great, but I thought you'd have it around your neck, because obviously you're a friend.
Well, see, no, and that is the thing. I mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, I am not a Liverpool fan, but I did want
it. Wall decorations.
So I did want to add it and give them some love, because yes, it was a long time coming for them, and they deserve it, and all of their actual because you were a last call guy, as I screwed up again. Apologize to Brian O'Ringer. I screwed up with his interview, and Lee told me that I could not use it because it was not good enough, and he was not going to make Brian look bad.
That's unfortunate, man.
There's a little young Padawan in Australia too, who's learning the ropes, and we'll eventually get him to come on camera.
Yeah, we'll get him on. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.